You're listening to the Jan Price Show, all about movies, and today my guest is José, Avelino, Gilles, Corbett, Lourenço. Did I do okay?
I think you nailed it.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Jose. I do. So, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here. We're going to be talking about your film, Young Werther, which is just absolutely adorable. I really enjoyed this movie. It's not your typical love story, but it's a lovely story, and it's so well done. It is. It's just so well done and so entertaining. So thank you for coming on the show to discuss Young Werther today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me and thank you for saying such kind things. That's so nice. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome. I mean, all of them. so, so let's talk about. I was surprised when I was doing my research where the material came for this movie, A Young Werther. So, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about the origin of the story to begin with, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. The film is based on a novel that was written in 1774 by Goethe called The Sorrows of Young Werther. And it's the story of a young guy and a young girl who fall in love, but she's engaged to an older man. But instead of it being this awful, terrible thing, it's they kind of settle into this love triangle, friendship triangle where there's no sort of clear hero and villain. It's just yeah, people trying to connect and live their lives and be good to each other.
Yeah, that's perfect, perfect. But 1776. When was it? 17 something.
1774. So it's
1774.
250th. Yeah, 250th anniversary this year.
Wow. And so you read this in college or high school?
In college, I wasn't aware of the book until it was a class that I took in third year called Coming of Age Literature. And, we had to read, I don't know, however many books, 18 books that semester, and it was one of them. And, and I liked it just fine. I was like, this is nice. But, wrote my essay and stuck it on the shelf and then didn't pick it up again for about a decade. And in those ensuing years, I'd had some heartbreaks of my own and a little more sort of experience in life. And when I reread the book, it just sort of hit a little differently. And I looked at it and was like, this would make a great movie. And it had been adapted into film in Europe before, into operas, musicals, television series, comic books. It's been widely adapted, but there hadn't been a major English language adaptation. So I was excited to try my hand at that.
Yeah, it's surprised that nobody had done this before, to be honest with you, because it is such a great story. And and the fact that it is 250 years old, it is as fresh. Did you have to make it more current and fresher, or was it already that, the groundwork already laid out in this book? Because I have not read it myself, to be honest.
Yeah, it's less of the film it's not really like a beat for beat recreation of the book as much as it is borrowing really the sort of narrative arc of the story, and the characters and the themes. So it's very much set in present day. It's a contemporary sort of version of the story. And really, it's the things that are being updated are the stuff around the edges of the story. The it's the wardrobe, the locations, things like that. But the essence of the story and what the characters are doing and how they're behaving, that feels timeless to me. It feels like something that is true to the way their lives would have been in 1774, as they are today, as they will be 250 years from now when it's inevitably adapted into whatever form of entertainment we're consuming then.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. Well, it is adorable. And you've got such a love. Your cast is. I love Alison Pill. I just love everything she's in. I always enjoy watching her. She's such a unique actress, and I look forward to seeing what she's going to do next. But she's just adorable in this. And Douglas Booth, who I didn't know anything about prior to seeing this film, But after seeing him, I now want to go watch other things that he has been involved with and things he has been in because he's just adorable. And the rest of the cast is too, if you want to talk a little bit more about the rest of the cast. But how did you come about casting Allison and Douglas? Because their chemistry is so wonderful in this film.
I feel very lucky at having both of them in the film and the chemistry that they have together because this wasn't a big studio film where you do chemistry tests for months and you bring in actors and play them off each other. This was casting the role of Werther that Doug plays. Took quite a long time. I met with so many different actors. I'd first seen Doug in a film called The Riot Club. It's a film from about 10 years ago, a British film that if you want to see every super talented, charming, handsome, young British man who is acting today, they were all in that film. And Doug really stood out from the pack for me. And I just had followed him ever since. So in your Douglas Booth filmography journey, check out The Riot Club. Wonderful.
Okay.
Um, and Allison, I feel the exact same way about her you do. I think she's just exceptionally talented. Someone who can do comedy and drama with just equal skill. So witty, so wonderful. Just an incredible actor. And the two of them together. I mean, I wish I could take credit for the connection that they had, but that really comes from the two of them and their innate facility for language and their physicality and just the reactions and the how present they both were. They're just incredible and yeah, loved watching them work. And then the rest of our cast too. I have nothing but it was just the most positive experience. Patrick J. Adams, people know from Suits primarily. It's just the loveliest, steadiest guy who's so funny off camera too. Just such a quick wit. Jahar Ben Aid, who played Paul, Werther's best friend. Johar is this sweet young actor from the UK as well, actually. He's in the new season of the oh God, what's the name of it? It's the Game of Thrones spin-off show that I should know the name of, but I don't.
I don't
And
either.
yeah, this is terrible. We're gonna get crucified online for this, but that show. And Iris Apatow, so warm and funny and smart, and Umrit Kaur, also just an incredible talent. It was a dream. It was a dream cast.
And you can see that on the screen. You can just see how long they get along in this film. And it is unusual because here it is, and so I don't know if we really told the audience what the premise is. A little bit you did about the book, but why don't you tell them a little bit more in more detail about the film and the relationships?
So in this sort of version of the Werther story, Werther is a charming young man from Montreal who has come to Toronto to run an errand for his mother to retrieve a contested family heirloom from a detested aunt. And while he's on this trip that his hypochondriac best friend has accompanied him on, he has a love at first sight moment with this very intriguing woman who is in the middle of just completely dressing down an oafish suitor who is clumsily trying to pick up her little sister at a gelato shop. And yeah, Werther kind of insinuates himself into this woman's life, into Charlotte's life, and she initially wants nothing to do with him, is not impressed by his charm. She's not charmed by his charm. She has no interest in his physical attractiveness. She's not falling for any of it, but he attends her birthday party and they sort of she learns that there's more to him than meets the eye, than a first impression, and they have a connection that blossoms into a friendship and a romance that is complicated because she is engaged to an older man who is a wonderful guy, and their relationship is imperfect, but it is stable, and Werther upsets that stability. But at the same time, Werther also befriends the fiance, and the film is just an exploration of uh, yeah, their connection, their semi-requited, unrequited love, friendship, all the gray areas that come with relationships like these.
Which
I feel
makes
like was that too long-winded? I feel like I really
not
read.
at all, not
Okay.
at all. And I think that That's what's so great because the relationships are solid. There isn't a good guy or bad guy. It's not like you're rooting for one more than the other because her fiance is really lovely and adorable and accepting, and of course Werther is totally charming and adorable, and we're rooting for him actually in many ways. But we're also rooting for the best for everybody in this film, and the fact that they all become friends and enjoy doing things together and whatnot is a testament again to just integrity and caring about other people and love too, because they all underneath love each other in their own special ways. Maybe not necessarily romantically, but definitely in love. And he comes and wakes her up a little bit, from her life. And also, I think the fiance, is gets awakened too from the relationship, which is lovely.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great insight. It's not just the story of Werther and Charlotte's relationship and how they affect each other. Werther and Albert affect each other too. I think Albert and Werther have almost like a older brother, younger brother, father, son, best friend, equal, romantic rival, kind of this. They're all these things at once, and and as much as Albert is woken up and sort of reminded of the things that make life worth living outside of just working all the time and sort of maybe taking a relationship for granted. Uh, Albert helps where they're sort of mature. It's almost like a uh, an example of another way to live. And I think with all the characters, it's looking at people as imperfect human beings, but human beings who are having very real experiences. Like um, I don't think day to day anyone goes through life trying to do the wrong thing or be a villain or be a hero or that people just exist and I think try to be good to each other and show each other a little grace. And that really resonated with me from the original text, and it was something that I was hoping the film would have too.
It does. It definitely does. It does. That's grace is a wonderful word. I love that word. It definitely has grace. Why do you think this novel that was written 250 years ago has such resonance today?
I mean, I think a lot of it is in what we were just discussing about sort of the tricky intricacies of human connection. It's y- when you look at Charlotte and Albert's relationship, they're engaged and they've been together for some time. There's no in the book or in the film, there's no indictment of their relationship. It's not labeling it as one thing. And it's a living, breathing thing, the way that all relationships are. And when Werther comes in, he's this gust of wind that sort of blows new life into that relationship. And he has his own sort of aims, and is, yeah, again, like not a he's a complex character. They're all complex human characters that uh yeah, they're none of them are having their best day or worst day in the film, and we talked a lot while shooting about having the movie not feel like it's the definitive story of these characters' lives or the one great love or the one great thing, because I don't think that's necessarily true or reflective of the human experience. We talked about the film being more of a chapter in the book of their lives and maybe a chapter from the first third of that book, something that they'll all look back on many years later as like, oh, that was a very memorable summer and we had these experiences and we were changed by them. But yeah, and I think that's the resonance of that book. It's accepting people for yeah, the interesting, flawed humans they are. And I think that's always going to be relevant.
Yes, this is true. This is true. Well, you certainly avoided falling into the rom com trap with this, and because it's a standalone, it's unique, it's got many messages, underneath it, and the acting is well, the germophobic friend
Yes, Paul.
Yes, well, okay, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's very realistic. I'm sure in the world, but the emotions and the feelings and the way this movie is done is very real, and you don't feel like you're just watching another typical romantic comedy in the way that you've put it together. And as I said, it's beautifully shot. The colors, the photography, the cinematography, the music. It's really well done.
Thank you so much. I mean, that like everything you just said makes me smile very, very broadly. Yeah, I mean the music was done by our incredible composer Owen Pallett, who is this virtuoso. He was a or and still is an indie musician. He's known for being widely known for being the violinist in the Arcade Fire, and in recent years he's scored the film Her, the Joaquin Phoenix
Oh,
film, and Dream Scenario with Nicolas Cage, and he's so talented and such a romantic and such like when I first approached him about scoring the film, many people when I would speak to them about the project, I would kind of have to explain a little bit about the book. And I'm not like a German literature scholar or anything. I can't really go into depth about it, but I mentioned it to Owen, and he was like, "Oh yes, Goethe's like first," and started going off. And he's like, "At one point, I was developing this operetta, and it was going to be Camus interviewing." And I was like, "Whoa, he's so smart and but she's just a incredible musician and composer." And our cinematographer, Nick Haight. I mean, if the film looks beautiful, it's because of Nick's eye and his coordination with her production designer, Kiara Vernon, who, when you talk about the colors, she and Courtney Mitchell, our costumer, like worked in lockstep to sort of give this film like a color journey and a quality of light that I feel fine celebrating those aspects of the film because I'm not saying anything about myself. I'm celebrating their work. They
right.
really did um, such a beautiful job beyond anything I could have imagined.
Yeah, I mean, it does. The colors just vibrate and stand out in this film, and again, it's just there's just segments the way it's done. It's just like little portraits. They're just so beautifully done. And the costume designer, go ahead.
Oh no, I just said I love that. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're very welcome. I can keep going here. But the costume design, Werther's costumes, let's talk about his costumes. His choice of suits and clothing I found fascinating.
Absolutely, yes. So yeah, Courtney Mitchell was our costumer, and so talented and so smart. And yeah, Werther's costuming was, he was meant to feel like a character out of time, like we wanted the film uh to feel timeless, to feel like it was contemporary, but yeah, like occupying like a unique zone. And Werther's outfits were very much someone who is, he's like a dandy, a fop, like really has an outfit for every occasion. Is not
Yes,
going to wear the same suit that he's been to a party that night that he's worn earlier that day.
I know.
You know,
And I was thinking, like, he only had one little suitcase. He was going to stay overnight. And all of a sudden, he has all of these clothes.
constantly shopping, constantly finding. One of the things in the film that I love so much was, and this was Courtney's idea, was, you know, Paul doesn't leave their hotel room in Toronto sort of at all. And Paul is always adorned in the hotel's like merch. Like he's always wearing, it's the Claudine Hotel. He's always wearing their sweatshirts and their sweatsuits and their t-shirts and things. And as Werther has his sort of as part of his emotional journey when he's starting to vibrate more on Paul's anxious, more depressed level, Werther takes on some of that costuming as well. He's wearing the Claudine Hotel sweatshirts. And then related to that, my mom and dad didn't see the film until the premiere. And I showed it to them, and my mom was like holding my hand during the movie, and she squeezed it extra hard when she saw where they were staying in the film because I named the hotel for her. She is Claudine Mary Corbett Lourenço. So the
Oh
Claudine
my goodness.
Hotel is named for her. Yeah. And then that night, my mom and dad they left the party after the premiere and went home to babysit our 4-year-old and our 7-year-old. And I had stolen sweatsuits from the film, waiting for them as pajamas at our house. So I got a nice text from my mom and dad wearing the Werther and Paul sweatsuits.
Oh, how wonderful. That's so exciting. Nice little tidbit for the film. That's really great. So, what was the most difficult part of filming? You filmed in Toronto.
Yeah, we filmed in Toronto and sort of the surrounding areas.
I used to live in Toronto. I lived in Toronto for a summer. I loved it.
Oh, really? Where did you live?
Oh, near the university. I used to. I lived in Rochester, New York, for a long time. This is the brief segue, and of course, Toronto's only 3 hours away, so I used to go to Toronto all the time. And then I ended up living there for some summer. So, and yeah,
Yeah.
I love Toronto. It's a great city. It really.
Well, much of the film was shot not too far from where we would have been living near the university. Yeah, we shot all over Toronto. Wait, sorry, what was the question? We were
Oh, just filming in Toronto.
Oh, filming in Toronto. Yeah. I mean, it was a great joy of this film was being able to not just film here, but set it here because Toronto so often plays other cities in films and TV shows. It occasionally plays itself, but it's rare. And yeah, it was nice to sort of have carte blanche to pick and choose all these really beautiful locations that I feel like are not seen that frequently in on our screens, and yeah, present this version of the city that is a bit heightened, that is a bit fairy tale, but is still grounded in reality enough that like you can go to Bar on the weekend and stand in line and get the most delicious gelato in the world. You can go to Restaurant 20 Victoria, south of Queen on Victoria Street, and sit at a table next to Meryl Streep when she's in town, and that's it's that kind of city, and yeah. So I feel so grateful to have been able to have it play in the film.
Great city. It really is. Well, where can people see Young Werther?
Oh, so Young Werther will be in theaters in the United States on December 13th. Theaters, it's a limited, I should know exactly which cities, but many cities in the United States will have it in theaters. It will also be available on VOD in the United States on December 13th. And then in other territories around the world, mostly January 5th and January 10th is where it's coming out. Yeah.
Well, everybody seek out Young Werther. It's a great one to watch over the holidays. It's a wonderful film. So thank you, Jose, for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your thoughtful questions and kind words. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I have a brief message for my listeners. If you would like to support the Jan Price Show, all about movies, you can now give a tax-free donation. So if you're looking for a tax write-off for 2024, this is a great way to support the show. You can go to creativevisions.org. That's creativevisions.org. Look for the Jan Price Show in the podcast section, and you can give a donation there. We appreciate it. Again, creativevisions.org. Thank you in advance for your support. And thank you, Jose. Lovely meeting you. Wish you much success with the film.
Thank you so much.